Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cardano Live. Glad to have everybody here. I have an amazing guest with us today, Nicolas de Prima. He's a former developer at IOG. He worked on Jormungandr in the early days of the testnet and built the Cardano ITN. So he is very proficient with the Cardano protocol. He's also the creator of Fenrir. Fenrir is the application that Cardano used during the incentivized testnet for pool operators to view, interact, and monitor the blockchain status. And it was very interesting application. Nicolas, thank you for being here today. I'm very glad to have you on. Love to see that you're now with DC Spark as the lead engineer at DC Spark. And before we really dig into it, I got to let y'all know, check out the links down below in the description. We have links to the DC Spark Catalyst Fund 6 proposals. There's 4 links down there. Check out those links. Click on them, hop over to IdeaScale, make an account on IdeaScale. Make sure you leave them some kudos and claps. Give them some good verbal feedback. 4 of them down below. DC Spark job applications. They are hiring. Sebastian is very busy interviewing people. He has a massive number of interviews. He has hundreds of applications, but don't let that deter you. Check out the job descriptions link down below. And also check out the Milkomeda protocol link and DC Spark website as well. That was very important. Now, on to the star of the show, Nicolas. I'm so glad to have you here and with DC Spark and still working on Cardano. How are you doing today, sir?
Thank you, Rick, for having me on your platform. I'm really glad to be here. I feel great. It's a beautiful day. And I'm excited to be starting with DC Spark. I saw in the starting jingle, the 3 founders of DC Spark are on the jingles. I know they announced here. So it's brilliant to someone's come back and know the company is maturing into something with more people, more knowledge. It's brilliant.
It actually looks warm and sunny there where you're at, too.
No, it's not warm.
It's not warm.
In England. It's
in
very
England.
cold. It's very cold, but yeah, I still have I can't believe I'm still wearing double layers. I should not at this time of the year, but yeah, it happens. Well, I'm very glad that you were talking about Fenrir. It's a funny story there because I didn't know it would become a project. That tool was developed back in summer 2019. We were not 2018 actually. Wow. Such a while back ago. And we were I was flying to Colorado to meet Charles Hoskinson and everyone was gathering and we were having this huge meeting where we're going to what is the status of thing, show us, show what you have been working on, and we have been so deep down in the protocol that we had nothing, we didn't want to show logs, oh, here is my terminal. Developers, they do that. They say, yes, it's working. Look the logs, and you see things printing, but what does that mean? How can someone make sense of these logs that I have been working with for 6 months, but someone who had no time to follow, what's going on, and are seeing these logs for the first time. How can they figure out what that means? So, I was on the phone with Vincent Hanquez, and I asked him oh, we need to do something. This is not possible. Charles is going to be oh, great guys, but it's not going to be thrilled. We want him excited about it. And so Vincent said, oh, look at Electron, do something in React, HTML. And I developed Fenrir in the plane going from UK to Colorado, and I was still using it during all the ITN to monitor things, and I was so happy that so many people they used it. Well, it's unfortunate it was needed to be used that much as well, right? We all know the ITN has been a difficult network to handle, right?
Yes. And Fenrir was the hero we needed at the time we needed it. It was perfectly timed. If anyone's not familiar, Fenrir is an ancient Nordic Greek dog wolf. It's like a giant wolf. If you've seen the Avengers, it's the giant dog at the near the end of End Games that they fight on Rainbow Row up there in Asgard or whatever. And so that was Fenrir.
Yes.
And it was really cool because at the time, the early pre-ITN, when we were on Jormungandr versions 0.6, 0.7, people were checking logs using the command line. And then right before the 0.8 series, somewhere in that timeline, Fenrir graphical interface came to life. And it was like, wow, okay, now I can get a very quick snapshot as to what's happening. So
Yeah.
that was really cool. And so
You would
now
see
you're,
you would see
yeah,
the mempool, the stake distribution, and as a stake pool operator, more importantly, you would see your own slot election, and you would know in advance during the current epoch how many slots you are going to have, and when, especially when.
yeah,
And
it
that
had
was
leader logs built in, and it would very quickly. Now it's done with CNCLI. We can get leader logs, and from Jor Manager, Andrew Westberg kept the first part of Jor Manager from Jormungandr in the software that he develops and releases, and so the name lives on,
yes.
and the concept lives on. That you could see the mempool. That was important for pool operators that they can
Mhm.
go. Oh, I can monitor how many transactions are in the mempool and is the blockchain keeping up, which then leads us to Milkomeda. Okay. The protocol that you're working on today for Cardano. Can you tell us about that? What's the overall snapshot? What is the Milkomeda protocol and what does that do for the users?
Okay, well, what does it do for the users? It's a very good question because that's really what we want to go there. And why we want to go there is to actually improve the user experience for Cardano in general, and that's the goal of DC Spark. Milkomeda is about connecting chains together, right, and to allow them to be bridged, via the Milkomeda protocol, one to another, allowing one user of one blockchain to access the feature of another blockchain, right? And we are going to start very soon, as soon as I get things working. We are going to start with Cardano and EVM, EVM blockchain, to allow using Solidity smart contract, Ethereum, on Cardano with your Cardano ADA. That's very important to say for the user, right? So you don't have to go on an exchange or send exchange tokens to one place to another in order to access the EVM, right? You will be able to do that directly with your application, with your wallet, your ADA wallet, and access this decentralized app that exists on in the Ethereum virtual machine ecosystem. And that's, I think, for the user, that's going to be great. But it's going to be great for the user. It's going to be great for the developers. So many developers, we're all like this a bit, right? When it's time to learn something new, it feels like a mountain. Well, okay, Plutus arrives. So if you feel like learning Plutus, do it, right? It's going to be great. It's going to be very interesting. Even if you don't necessarily use it right now, it's going to gives you so much knowledge about how to do better programming anyway, in general. But as a developer, if you're already a Ethereum developer, well, you can just jump in now and you can provide your resources to the Cardano ecosystem. So all these smart contract decentralized apps that exist there, they will exist now in Cardano ecosystem too, and that's great.
Okay. So the underlying Milkomeda protocol, are you building that in Rust or what are you building that in?
Oh, okay. So the Milkomeda protocol is a protocol to connect these two blockchains, right?
Okay.
Together. Okay, we are not reinventing blockchain. We are not rewriting new blockchain from scratch. We are using things that are here already, that are existing. So Cardano, we are having a Cardano node running, locally on the validator node, right, on the bridge node, and we are going to have a Ethereum node as well running, And what we will do is that we will have the bridge, which is written in Rust, right? mostly, not entirely. There is a bit of Go. There is a lot of JavaScript, right, and some PostgreSQL as well here and there to make it easier to access the blockchain data, in both parts, especially at the beginning where we just want to first, reach the MVP. So it's going to be a bit more maybe blotted at the beginning in terms of the software is going to be slightly bigger maybe than we want to. And then later on, we will reduce it to its minimum components, right? So the core of the bridge, right, is going to be written in Rust. And in essence, it is a wallet. Right. So that's why it's going to be so quick to do it in Rust, right? Because we already have most of the components written in Rust from because Yoroi, for example, the wallet Yoroi is written in partially in Rust, right? The core components are written in Rust. So we are going to reuse some of the components there to try to make the wallet happen, and are already written like 3 wallets now for Cardano. So I'm starting to get used to doing that quickly. And writing a wallet for Ethereum, well, that's quick. It's an account-based system, so you just query the state of the account, and you are there. And then suddenly you have a mean to control the assets that you have on both chains.
Okay. All right. So if let's look at the developer view, and then we'll look at the user's view. So if you're a developer, you can get the Milkomeda protocol once that releases in the coming weeks and months. They can put that Milkomeda package. They can get it from GitHub, load it on their computer, and then they'll be able to interact with the protocol using Go or JavaScript or Solidity?
Not Solidity. Solidity is going to be, that's a targeted platform for this special delivery that we are going to do. The first one with Cardano, right? But because at the end we can do another one, we can do the other way around, like.
Okay, so they'll have Go and JavaScript at their disposal.
They will have some. They're going to have Rust and JavaScript at their disposal at the beginning to control things. They are going to have maybe a C library because once you have done the JavaScript bindings, they are the same as the C bindings for APIs, right? If you want to interact with it, so there's going to be a REST API as well to interact with the wallet to see the status. I just made a executive decision this morning already, which is everything is going to use open telemetry. So that's it. Like we don't discuss it anymore. Every component that we have in the validator node are going to use a standard that is open already that everyone can use to gather the log and see the healthiness of the node, of the status. So of course, Cardano node does not have that. There's something custom, so we will need to do some tweaking. But we are used to that. Cardano is always a bit custom, but the Ethereum nodes that we are going to use already use open telemetry. So that makes things easier, and for the user because that's what we are targeting we will be targeting for this special case. When you say they get it from GitHub, it's how you become a participant to this environment. Because that's what I think you are talking about, right? How do you become one of the bridge?
Right.
Can you be a validator? And yes, you can as a user. As people who are maintaining the network, people who are used to working with me on the ITN, they know that I'm going to give them the control and make sure they can get control of their node, right? And so, yes, you are going to be able to develop it and deploy it at some point. That is going to happen. So that's going to be as simple as Docker Compose start, open telemetry, your configuration, your YubiKey, certainly. I'm working on this. Security first, right?
Yeah.
And now, no poly network issue with us. We try.
Yeah, that's great to hear, because even like on ITN, when you built things in Rust, we had really proficient community developers like Michael Fazio, who knows Rust well, and was able to work with that. And apparently you can deploy pretty rapidly or develop pretty rapidly in Rust. And we have really awesome community developers like Andrew Westberg with his Talk to the Node initiative, being able to communicate through the API and stuff like that. So that's Awesome. That's fantastic to hear. So it's really going to help developers. Let's look at the user side for a minute. Okay. Now you were telling me before the podcast, and Sebastian has done a video over on his Sebastian Guillemot channel on the blockchain. So blockchain in real time, as it's moving in progress, there are stubs that are created, branches. So there's not one instance of the chain at the head of the chain, right? The old history of the chain is pretty stable. So can you give a description of how that works and what you're doing with Milkomeda to improve the user interface that compensates for that stubbing and branching that occurs at the head of the chain? Tell us more. That was fantastic. Please tell us more about that.
Oh, this is a brilliant topic. This is working on this is the multiverse. What you're talking about. That's what we call it. And that's Vincent Hanquez who coined this already back in Jormungandr, where we were thinking about how to develop with Ouroboros Prowse, how to develop the blockchain, and so. We all know with blockchains, there are this object that we call consensus, which is how we decide which block is going to be the new block that we add at the top, right? On Bitcoin is going to be you are mining the Bitcoins. That's you are trying to find this hash, this configuration to mine your block and to submit it to the network, and it takes in average 10 minutes. And what may even happen if the difficulty is low and the hashing power is high of the community, what will happen is that there is going to be duplicates. And you may have, at some point, for example, 2 blocks that are submitted for the same slot of time, if that makes sense. And on Cardano, you have something similar that may happen depending on the difficulty, right? So every time, every 2 seconds on Cardano, you have that you have this sticker where you have a new slot created, and this slot is an opportunity for a block creator to a block producer to try to submit a block, right? So it doesn't really happen like this, but you can literally picture it like a gambling table where every time throw a dice at the same time, and everyone who does that magic number, they get elected and they get a chance to share the spoil. Right. So on Cardano, it's exactly that. There is a VRF, which is a verifiable random function. That's a very important property of Cardano, or cryptographic property of Cardano. And they use this function to launch these dice, on the table, and to say, okay, do I have a chance to create a block now? Yes. Okay, I submit my block. But the thing is that multiple people, because everyone is doing it at the same time, right? Multiple block producer may produce the same block, right, at the same time. So you may have competitive slot. We saw that on the ITN. We still see that on Cardano nowadays. Less maybe nowadays, I think, because the network is getting very stable and the difficulties are properly set and are matching what the number of stake pool and the stake distribution. So it's more or less so nowadays, but it still happen. And what is even can happen as well, beside just the consensus algorithm, some network properties might change. Some nodes are in isolation for a little bit of time. They decide to work together, and then they come back, on the network. They come back online again, and then they realize that, there are different branches. So this may happen, and this is why for us on the user, when you do a transaction to an exchange or to another wallet, we always say, wait a bit. On Daedalus or on Euro, you see these little counters that say, okay, it's sent, it's wait pending confirmation, it's confirmed. And it's because the wallet, they know that things are not very stable at the head of the blockchain, so they give it a bit of time. And depending on the kind of blockchain it is, Bitcoin, we usually say wait a couple of blocks, so sometimes it can take to be very, very sure. People, they even say you need to wait a couple of hours, that's difficult, right? That's one of the critiques that people do to Bitcoin. On Cardano, it will take less. It will take about 5 to 10 minutes at most, just the time to be sure that everything is there. And even 5 or 10 minutes is to be very, very confident that it's not going to be rolled back. So the network is very stable. And so what we have imagine is that as a wallet, you don't want to have to wait necessarily to see your transaction is confirmed. Because you are connected on the network and the same network as every other block producer that there are out there. What you want instead is to see, where is your transaction, how is it added to the tip of the blockchain, to the top of the blockchain in these new blocks, and if it is going to be included in one block, but because of the transaction being propagated through the peer-to-peer network, what you will see is that it's very likely, especially on blockchain where transaction rate are, there are not that many transactions happening per blocks, right? For example, Cardano, there is 10 transactions a block at most in average, I suppose. That's my finger in the air guesstimate, of course. What is very likely to happen is that you will see your transaction in both branches or in all competitive branch. So if that happens, well, you can be very confident that actually what's going on the blockchain is that your transaction is going to be accepted. You don't need to wait that much.
It's going to be in there. It's going to be in there. Yeah.
It's going to be in there. It's in every possibilities. If you have seen Loki on Disney Plus, if you're following the series, it's exactly like this, right? It is a variation. So there is this sacred timeline that all the consensus is trying to protect, right? And there are these variations that happens when there are one variant, one block producer that is a bit out of sync or who has been unlucky and draws the same number as another variant, and that's how it happens.
Okay, so this is brilliant. Here's why I think it's so brilliant. I did not know. Now I knew that there were stubs and branches at the head of the chain, and each node would have to resolve, and eventually they have consensus on the longest chain. Now, how this affects the user, let's say I'm a user and I'm on Uniswap, or I'm on Occam, I'm on Card Wallet, I'm on Giro Wallet, I'm using Card Starter. I'm using one of those DeFi applications. I'm a user, right? And Cardano block time is on average 20 seconds. And I'm sitting here on my app and I'm trying to make a trade on Card Starter or Occam, right? I'm sitting here poking the buttons on my phone. Now, if the head of the chain has slight variation, like there's little stubs and branches, it could slow down how my dApp responds, right? Like it could say, well, I got to resolve the chain first on the other end before I tell you your trade is complete, right? But with Milkomeda protocol, if there are 2 or 3 different instances of the chain at the head of the chain, it will say, oh, that guy's transaction is in all 3 instances of the head of the chain, right? And then it can say, that's a good transaction. So it'll be able to resolve quicker instead of the user having to wait 20 seconds times 2 times 3 times 4. So you're looking at a minute and 20 seconds for the user. And I would start to worry. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been waiting 2 minutes for this transaction. Did I get my bags before the green candles went up, right? That's me as a user. But with Milkomeda protocol, it will be more smoother, is what I understand. Did I copy that correctly?
Oh, you understood very well, and you even extrapolated directly to where I was going to go, which is no, we are going to apply that to Milkomeda, and we are building it first class for Milkomeda here in this case. And yes, that's the plan. The plan actually is not even to have to wait. Is as soon as you see the transaction, even if it's not necessarily in all branches, we can. Well, that's more down the line. I'm not going to do. We are not going to do that development just yet because that's going to be quite something difficult to build already. But that's a long-term plan.
We'll save that for another podcast.
Is to follow every branches and execute things in probabilistic of what the chain is going to do. So as soon as you see the transaction, as soon as you send your token to execute a smart contract on Milkomeda, Ethereum smart contract on Milkomeda, we can start thinking of executing it straight away, even if the branch is not completely, if the transaction is not confirmed yet. And if it doesn't happen, we can then think about cancellation, compensating, and you can you can imagine putting a security on the side to say, okay, I really want this transaction to be executed right now. And if it's seen on the branch that is not going to be confirmed, it's going to be rolled back and removed later. Well, I'm okay to lose a bit of to pay a bit of fees on it, but I would really like to try to force it. And so there are like many new opportunity we can see, and this is for Milkomeda only. Now imagine for an explorer. This is a shame, right? We are all looking at these explorers, and there are sometimes, if you look at the tip of some blockchains that are more or less stable, or they are moving a lot, and there are a lot of competitive forks that are happening at the top. Sometimes you see block disappearing, and you don't understand why. Well, this is why. It's because they don't expose what's going on the blockchain. They just expose what's going on the best blockchain, or the best version of the blockchain. So we are missing this little information. And I know that on the ITN, we had a tool that was written on pooltool.io that was giving us, this competitive block, this slot battle with a nice little UI, and we were able to follow this kind of thing, right? This kind of evolution on the blockchain, and that's useful information for the user, because they can see, they can trust that the blockchain is healthy. If there are too many branchings, there's something wrong, something's happening. If there is not enough, well, that's good. That means things are stable, right? And for the stake pool operator, well, that allows them to see what's going on, why my block disappeared, and now they will know.
Yeah, and people would know that. Now, if for the viewers, let me go back to the viewers for a minute and remind them what's down below. But for the viewers, if you use primarily Cardano, you don't see these problems as often because Cardano is designed so extremely well. But if you're using Ethereum, you will see that where the transaction failed, you still burned your gas fee, or the transaction is pending for a very long period of time. That's because there's multiple chains. Even just last week, the entire Ethereum chain split. It forked into two completely different networks because of a bug that they had on mainnet. So we don't see that as much with Cardano, but at the head of the chain, there is forking, and there's a little bit of branching and stubbing that occurs because it's a global network, and the time it takes transactions and blocks, primarily blocks, to propagate from stake pool to stake pool and node to node. So the Milkomeda protocol looks like it's going to solve that. So for the viewers, check out the description down below. I had a good question from Trade Feeds here earlier. Who is funding the devs? Many different sources of funding here, because DC Spark is a very, very smart, very professional organization. Down in the description, you'll see the first Catalyst Fund 6 project listed there. That is the Multiverse DApp rollback handler, and that's related to a lot of the things Nicolas has been talking about up to this point. You'll also see the other components of Milkomeda. There are many different components, and so there are 4 different Catalyst Fund proposals listed down below. Please make sure you check all of them out. No, so that's for the viewers. Make sure you check that out down below. Also, DC Spark, I had Nicolas, I had Nico Arqueros on previous Cardano Live. So check out the previous Cardano Live with Nicolas Arqueros. They did do some startup funding to get DC Spark up and running, and that went really well. So they're covered. They got the bags covered, but DC Spark is a private organization, so I'm not going to sit here and ask Nicolas to go under the hood on his funding. Right? I don't want to do that.
Well,
he's not.
Yeah, we're project oriented. If we do something that doesn't bring money, we stop. Right.
Right.
And if it's not funded, we stop, because we will have to be very pragmatic. So if you want to see more work on the multiverse, and if that sounds appealing to you, please vote for that project, because that will allow me to hire new guys and to spend more time with UI and this kind of thing, and this kind of people, and skills, so we can develop better for the Cardano user, because we are mainly going to work for Cardano with everything that we're doing so far.
Yeah, and I like the model you're using at DC Spark. It's very much like Dash Core. Okay, so a Dash Core, they use their governance model and funding model, the folks that are there, to build fund after fund, and they parsed it out into different projects, just like you guys did, and it was very successful. And they've been building for years on Dash using a similar model, so we know it works. It's proven and tested. All I need the viewers to do is I need y'all to make sure you register for Fund 6. That's coming up shortly. Vote in Fund 6 for the DC Spark projects they have listed here. That will get you new toys. That is the cool thing about voting, is you get the toys that you want with your voting power. And Cardano just like set a blasting record on Fund 5. There were over 32,000 unique wallet votes. Over 32,000 voters participated in Fund 5, and it was up in the billions and billions of ADA was used. And IOG, when they went hands off on that one, I believe, I don't want to speak for IOG, but I think they went hands off, and that was pretty much all community voters and industry voters, not IOG, that got those projects approved, and that's amazing, utterly
That's
amazing. Yeah, that Voltaire type technology is already that well developed.
Yeah,
Voltaire, and we're still about to do last part of Gogan. All right,
And
so I need to pump out those links down below. Nicolas, what do you got out? What else you got for us?
Well, Catalyst is a project that I worked on as well, and it's powered by Jormungandr in the background. So if you like the mobile app, if you like what you're doing when you're voting, please support our projects because at DC Spark, because that's the kind of a new tool that we are going to give to the community.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I did not know specifically. I heard of it, and I saw that Jormungandr development was continuing. So Jormungandr is still running in the background, powering the Catalyst side. So I'm assuming it can still read the entire Cardano blockchain and handle the transactions between Catalyst, IdeaScale, and the app on the phone, and get that passed over to the blockchain on the Haskell side. Is that correct?
Well, that's something like this that they are doing. So it's not a Jormungandr node, that blockchain that is running continuously. They take a snapshot of the voting, of all the votes that happen. They start a new blockchain, and everything is privately happening there on Catalyst. And then you vote on your mobile app, and that's your mobile app is a wallet. It's a Jormungandr wallet. And you vote with this. It's zero knowledge. The guys there, they continued the work there. They did a great job. And they're continuously improving the app, and that's very good. I'm really proud to see that project continuing to live and to be so successful and so much used as well.
Yeah. Okay, so Nicolas, your own personal preference, if you had to choose, which chains would you like to connect to first? Is it Solana, Ethereum, Polkadot? Do you have a certain preference, or is there one you're looking at you can tell us about?
Yes, there are preferences. My personal favorite right now is it's Polkadot, it's Substrat, right? I really love the way they make it. They made it very simple for the developers to select these different crates, these different properties, and put them together and decide what they want. Solana, well, it's in Rust as well, and it's really great. They did some great choices there, but we are going to give Ethereum to the community first. Because that's what the user wants, and as usual, we are going to do what the user wants. The users, they want Ethereum smart contract, so that's what we are going to do. There's going to be we are going to announce this later, because there are still some partnership and some experimentation to be sure. But right now, it's very likely we are going to look at Quorum or Bezu or something like this to start to power our sidechain. But yeah, we're still exploring options. We are very flexible there, and we are trying to make sure that we have something that works and that is going to be maintained for the long run.
Okay. Right? All right. Yeah. All right. That makes sense. I can agree with that. I mean, I would kind of lean, I'm leaning Solana. You're thinking Polkadot, but it does make sense to go with Ethereum first, with the very large user base, and improve the user experience interacting there as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. And getting those tools out to the developers so they can build it out. Nice. Yeah. Now, there are other parts. We've been going for 30 minutes now, and I think this has been an awesome podcast so far. So I would like to invite the viewers, if you have any questions, please pop them over there in the chat, and I will get to them as long as they're related to the Milkomeda protocol Let me know if you have any questions for Nicolas while he's here. There's a few other things that we could touch on. It's the cross chain. We just started getting into that and looking at Ethereum. You also have a proposal listed down below, the multi-sig for building EVM bridges. So I take it the Milkomeda protocol will interact with the EVM. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, we will use that for, on the long run, we will use that for DAO to select new node validator. How do we accept new participants to make this more decentralized? At the beginning, we, of course, we will start with ourselves, make sure that it's working. Then we will start adding more people, and then we will give that to the sidechain itself to develop itself with its internal DAO and this kind of thing. So, but yeah, this is more down the line. What else do we want? Like we will use the smart contract as well inside to decide, how to control the wrapped ADAs that are going to be there. Make sure that are we all the validator nodes, they are happy that the transactions on Cardano, they are correct and the history on Cardano is correct. We can release the smart contract, execute things. Release the funds. The wrapped ADA on the chain to emulate, what's happening for Ethereum, and so that's where we will have something solid, and we are feeding our own food, right? Because if we are eating our own food as well. This is the tech we are developing, so we are going to use it ourselves as well. Makes sense, right? So that's where we see the bugs. We see I'm not even talking about bugs here, but more like we are going to be the pain point for the developers and the user, the smart contract, where we will know firsthand because we are using them too. So every time there is going to be issue, pain point, we will talk about it openly. People who are used to the ITN before, they know that I'm going to be available and that things are going to be open and transparent. So we will have this exchange, these experimentations together. It's going to be, I'm so looking forward to it.
Yeah, there's so many neat things you can do with this. You sent me that link to your GitHub with the DC Spark, and there was a description in there that talked about wrapped smart contracts. And I was like, is that like a wrapped ERC20 token, or can you actually wrap a smart contract itself and then send it across the Milkomeda interface to the other chain? How does that work?
Well, it's not. Well, I think it's a shortcut in the wording, right?
Okay.
It's more so. What you are going to do is that the user are going to do the actions on Cardano blockchain, right? And they are going to execute the smart contract or launching the command on Cardano blockchain. And the result is going to, be, the smart contract is going to be executed with whatever we have locked, from the Cardano blockchain to reward the node validator and the smart contract, the nodes running the EVM. And then this is going to be executed on a wrapped, world where it emulates what has been ordered on Cardano in terms of token distribution, this kind of thing, right?
Okay.
So we are not wrapping the smart contract itself. We are wrapping the ADA, and we are, so you send that to one of our multi-sig address. It appears on the other chain. And with the commands you have instructed, like execute ERC token, ERC20, if that's, if that's what you are referring to, for example, execute it, and with this input, with these parameters, and that's going to happen on the other chain. So it's not really wrapped smart contract, but I understand why. I don't know who wrote that, maybe it was Robert. I understand why it is this shortcut. Because that makes sense, right? Because
it kept it short. It kept it like, somehow I can operate on the Cardano blockchain and an action takes place on the Ethereum blockchain. Okay. Yeah, that was the key. Okay, that's fantastic. Thank you for explaining that. I appreciate it. I saw that and I was like, what does that mean? So that I got it now. I got you. All right. If there's no other questions, I do have a question from Vincent Verdugo that just showed up, and then we'll wrap up in a few minutes. Does that sound good, Nicolas?
Yes, why not? Oh, yes, it's been 40 minutes now. Whew.
Yeah, I know. Time flies when you're having fun. All right. So Vincent asked, thank you, Vincent, for the question here. What are the differences in security for a Solidity smart contract on the side chain versus the main chain? So that's part one of a two-part question. Can you speak to that at all, or is that kind of in your domain of expertise, Nicolas?
Not really, but I can see where it's coming from. Well, you are not even on Cardano. You are not going to be able to execute a Solidity smart contract on the chain, right? Because what you are going to be able to execute are Plutus smart contract. With coming this next week or in 10 days now.
September 12th. Yeah, 11 days. September 12th.
It's going so fast. Woohoo!
Yeah.
And so you're not going to be able to do it, on Cardano. And that's what we are doing here. We are just allowing Cardano user to have the Solidity smart contract as well. There's no like you are just going to have the same thing otherwise in terms of security if it's executed on our chain. If the smart contract is going to be what it is that you execute, so you need to be certain, about what you're doing as well as a user. When you execute the smart contract, you need to have the confidence. Don't trust, verify. That's the usual motto in cryptosphere, right? But there is also, and then we are working very hard to make sure that our bridge, this little entity that we are building between the two chains, is as secure as it gets. We are doing everything with but I can go down the details later of actually why not, but we are trying to have this kind of functional approach where everything that happens on Cardano is passed on little functions that are individually property testable, where it can be where we can create scenario tests easily to reproduce bugs, to try to think like, okay, if I'm an attacker, I will want to try at the same time to send a transaction there and then to see if there is a hard fork happening or a fork happening, and then utilize that to do that, or when we rotate the key of the validator of the multisig, maybe there are some edges that actually I'm giving you all the edges that were the edge testes that were, like the edge cases that we are looking at the moment, right? And like what happened when you send an execution, but we are the validator nodes are rotating the multisig key. What do we do? Do we wait? Do we try to execute it still, anyway, or do we are cautious, and we wait later and we delay the execution, and we apologize to the user for that. So there are things to consider. And then also, does Cardano improve Solidity contract security? Or Solidity exploit present on Cardano? Well, then that's like irrelevant. There is no Solidity smart contract on Cardano, so
So I think really the only way to answer those questions is I would have to get someone who's proficient in both Solidity and Plutus, someone who's probably a language architect, whereas you're a developer where you deploy apps and nodes to the field, right? So maybe we'll get someone else to do that. But I will say this, things that I have read from the Cardano community in the Cardano documents is Cardano's Plutus has an improvement over Solidity in the sense that you can verify the Plutus smart contract that it will do what it says it is going to do with a certain amount of confidence that smart contract is not going to execute things that it shouldn't do, and it is more bug resistant. There's no such thing as bug proof, but it's more bug resistant. And then there's the actual Cardano node itself, which is not subject to flash loan attacks and certain types of attacks that are not really a function of Solidity, but more a function of the EVM and the Ethereum design. So, but I'll let someone who's more of an expert speak to that. Thank you, Vincent, for the question. We always appreciate it. And hopefully we can have someone on who can do a deep dive in those areas. Hishoshi might have more on his channel, over on his YouTube channel. Okay. All right. I think we touched on everything. Was there anything else that we were going to cover today? I think we got it all.
I think we have it all, actually. We talked about many things.
Yeah. Oh, well, there was one. I had one question on here because I'm a moon boy. Okay. I'm a little bit of a moon boy. I like green candles. Is there a Milkomeda token, and how do I get one if there is? Is there going to be a Milkomeda token?
No.
Okay, all right. No. But it uses ADA, wrapped ADA.
The currencies that we are not going to use to distribute currencies. There is not going to be drops.
Okay.
There's not going to be pre-sales. There's no. I mean, like there is an accounting model for the wrapped ADA, for the ADA that have been wrapped, but there is, but everything is paid in ADA. You use your ADA to execute your smart contract, and when you pay the fee, you pay them in ADA.
Okay, the Milkomeda fees are paid in ADA. I'm curious how it will work if I use a smart contract on Cardano and I'm using ADA and that smart contract bridges over to Ethereum. Do I have to have gas? Do I have to have ETH over on the Ethereum side for it to pick up and execute the smart contract on that end?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
I thought so.
Yeah, gas. Yeah.
Okay, so the gas has to be in there as well.
Yes.
All right. That's cool. I mean, that's perfectly understandable.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
Yeah.
But see, that's where actually you're starting to talk about what's going to be very exciting about having this is that now you can imagine writing a smart contract, a pretty smart contract that utilize some also, and that's going to call maybe, some Ethereum smart contract as well on the EVM, and then you can bring your libraries of Solidity smart contract in the Cardano ecosystem and just write the wrapper in Plutus that you will need, for example, and that's it. You can start rolling, and then maybe slowly convert what you need to, in the Plutus world as you need, and as you learn the language, maybe because it's going to be brand new for so many people now. So,
All right. So the key takeaways here today for developers, they're going to have an easier access to deploying things on Cardano because it's going to use Go and JavaScript early on with Milkomeda protocol. And then for the users, it'll make a smoother interface with the dApps for dApps that employ the Milkomeda protocol. If a developer chooses to put those technologies in, it'll make a smoother action for the user, right? That's pretty much what we got today. All right. Anything else, Nicolas, for the viewers? I'm going to give you the last words here before we wrap up for the day. Is there anything you want to tell the viewers before we wrap up?
No, that's great. Well, thank you for having me on your platform. Thanks to your viewers for listening to me. I hope I brought something interesting and exciting for you to listen today. And I'm looking forward to maybe see you in 6 months, and look back, at everything that happens in between, and be able to tell you, see, we delivered what we promised.
Yes, that would be fantastic. I'd love to see the follow-up. And I'm very excited. So thank you for that, Nicolas. I'm very glad to have you on here. Love to see you coming back. Just a reminder to all the viewers, we're going for #1 all day, every day. Mainnet plan is still for September 12th. Today, September 1st, is the hard fork test on the testnet, the Alonzo, to make sure it will fork into smart contract capability. If all goes well there, plan on September 12th. September 24th and 25th is the summit. So big dates coming up this month for the month of September. Thank you, Nicolas. You have a great day, man. I appreciate it. And bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.